Hey everybody, it's GobletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. And today we're going to be playing one final Omniscience Draft of Avatar, The Last Airbender. By the time the video goes live, Innistrad Midnight Hunt will be back on Arena. We'll be in full flashback draft season, but of course I record these videos a little bit beforehand, so one final Omniscience Draft here today. And the main channel is in the high mythic queues. I believe it's top 250 mythic right now, and I would rather not tank that rank. And so because Omniscience drafts are ranked for some reason, we're going to be doing one little Omniscience draft here on the alt account, so we'll be way down in bronze here. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get into one final absolutely chaotic, absolutely crazy Omniscience draft. This is not a great opening pack for Omniscience. Might take the Teo here. This is the only card that has some sort of card draw attached, being able to loot every time it attacks, drawing a card and discarding a card every turn, and helping dig towards your more important spells, which is really good to do in Omniscience because you end up running almost every single card you draft, so you'll end up with cards like 2/2s, which are not very good, in a deck where you can cast everything for free. So Teo looks like the best that we have here since we don't have any immediate card draw. Nothing that draws a card right when it enters the battlefield. Nothing that draws a card right when you cast it. The cards you're really looking for are cards like Waterbending Lesson that draw 3 right when you cast it, so you can loop those, chain them together, and cast basically your whole deck turn 1. This pack doesn't have anything that can do that. It just has 2 creatures that could, in one way or another, try to draw a card every time they attack. So I believe these 2 are the options, and I'm going to go for the Teo. Pick number 2. Not seeing any dedicated card draw in this pack either. There's the Buzzard Wasp Colony. When it enters, you can sack an artifact or creature to draw a card. So you can sack one of your mediocre creatures that you've ended up running out. If you got any token producers, that helps as well. It can sack a clue token, so you don't have to pay the clue mana. So with the Omniscience emblem, you get to cast spells from your hand for free, but if you want to activate any abilities or cast spells from exile or anything like that, you will have to spend mana on them, but you do get 1 mana of every color every turn to do that with, which means that you can crack 2 clue tokens a turn, which can sometimes be a little bit of a hindrance. Sometimes you can get more than 2 clues in 1 turn, and then maybe the Buzzard Wasp Colony comes in and sacks the 3rd clue for you. I think we just take the Buzzard Wasp Colony. It looks like the only card draw adjacent spell, so we'll grab that and see what shows up in pick number 3. There's another Teo, which could be the pick. What else have we got here? Not much. We can get 1 clue token from Jet's Brainwashing. Airbending Lesson has some good synergies. I could roll with the Airbending Lesson here. Once again, if you're casting things from exile, you will still have to pay their mana costs, so you'll have to use emblem mana to recast one of your airbent cards, but spending 2 of your emblem mana to recast something with a good enter the battlefield effect can still be worth it. And the airbending lesson is flexible. You could use it on an opposing permanent as well to stop some damage, but most of the time in Omniscience you want to cast this on your own card to try to combo off. Airbending Lesson's probably better. It's that immediate impact, that immediate card draw versus slower draw over time. So we'll grab the Airbending Lesson there. Now we have Master Piandao, probably another one of these Teo-style creatures that might be able to draw a card every time it attacks. This grabs allies, equipment, or lessons. There's a lot of good lessons we'll be running, like Airbending Lesson, but really Waterbending Lesson we will take over almost anything. So being able to dig for just that is already okay. The only other potential card draw is Leaves from the Vine, drawing a card on Chapter 3, or Price of Freedom, draws a card only if you can destroy an artifact or land an opponent controls. Yeah, if this has no legal targets, it doesn't do anything, so you're like using this trying to crack a clue and then they sack it in response. I mean, in this Omniscience format, a lot of players will end up running a few lands so that they can make some of their earthbending cards potentially work, or so they can make Sokka's Haiku work. That's a counterspell you have to have a land on board to be able to cast. So this might not be a complete blank. There will be a legal target sometimes, but still feels a lot sketchier than Master Piandao, a lot less consistent. Pick 5, Grand's pretty great. Draw a card, discard a card every time she becomes tapped. That's not going to be easy to do in terms of attacking with her, considering everyone's easily going to have like a 5-6 on board on turn 1 at the very least. So she's not going to do much attacking, but there are a lot of decent waterbending cards that have you tap a bunch of your permanents to do something that you can play alongside Grand to get her going. So I like the Grand here. Outside of that, there is Meteor Sword could be okay. Better than the majority of removal spells in Omniscience because the sword itself is free, so just a removal spell with some added benefits. The Wolf Bats could be okay as well because you're going to be trying to draw a second card almost every single turn. You will have to use Emblem Mana to bring it back, but it's just one of your 5 Emblem Mana. I'm going to go for the Grand though. Get some looting going. There we go. Here's our first big piece of card draw, which is Accumulate Wisdom. It looks at the top 3 cards of your deck, picks the best one, puts it into your hand. Selective card draw like this is very good on Omniscience because the difference between the worst card in your deck and the best card in your deck is massive in this format. It's the difference between, you know, maybe a 2-1 and a 1-1 and like a draw 3 spell that's now going to cast a bunch of stuff. So Accumulate Wisdom's already good up front. And then it's excellent if you can get 3 or more lessons in your grave, and there are plenty of very good lessons to run on Omniscience to where you can get 3 or more in grave and get the full draw 3 out of that card. Lost Days, True Ancestry. These are other very solid lessons for Omniscience, to name a few. And there we go. Pick 7, we find our first waterbending lesson. There are some cards you would take over this, mostly some rares and mythics that I can think of off the top of my head, but it's very, very few. So if you want to draft simply, just if you see a waterbending lesson, 9 times out of 10, it's the best card in the pack and you can just take it. Pick number 8. Corrupt Court Official is okay in the opening hand. It could be a little bit rude, but not the greatest outside of that. Badgermole's kind of cute if you end up running a few lands for Badgermole, as well as maybe some other cards like Sokka's Haikus or Waterbending Scrolls or something. Because this is one of the few ways to actually get a haste creature on the board, since your land becomes a haster. So in our last deck, we actually did win a lot of games on our very first turn because we could play a Badgermole, animate a land, and then buff that land up to 20 power over time with cards like Katara and the Guru. That's unlikely to happen here because that deck really popped off, so I don't know how valuable really trying to get hasty land is. It's probably not that worth it. I could definitely see Corrupt Court Official being better. Omashu City is a land that we can run that we can also sack to our Emblem Mana to draw another card, so that's okay as well. But I found pretty good success with just taking the best card in each pack, and then if we do end up getting cards that want to run lands, we just cut our worst cards that we ended up drafting and just don't run any of those kind of sack lands. I had pretty good success with that strat, so I'm just going to go for the Corrupt Court Official here. Pick number 9. Not a good pack. We can take a straight up 7/7 no matter what happens, or a creature that we can slowly build up to be bigger than a 7/7. If we're lucky and we get a really good deck at chaining spells together, the Porcupine will be bigger, but the Moose Lion's a lot more consistent. I think I'd rather just grab the Moose Lion there. The Waterbender's interesting too, just as a way to waterbend Gran, even if it is much smaller than the Moose Lion. The waterbending flexibility and synergy could be helpful. I'm still going to go Moose Lion. Here's another Moose Lion. I'll take that over mainly Jets. But Barrels is also okay. Otter Penguin also probably okay. You'll be drawing a second card most turns. Pick 11, I'll take Mongoose Lizard. Daily Indoctrination's a card that's good if you have it in your opening hand turn 1. Because again, in Omniscience, everybody starts with a 3-card hand. So being able to try to rip one of those cards out could be good, but it's a bad draw at any other point, so I'm not super into it. Just take the Lizard over the clue token there. Pick 12. I'll take Waterbender over Price of Freedom. I could just see this card not having targets on board. And the Waterbender goes with Gran. Otter Penguin or Platypus Bear. Take Otter Penguin there. And then Beetle-Headed Merchants and see what shows up in pack number 2. Lost Days is quite reasonable removal. getting their creature back into their library somewhere, and giving you a clue token to go ahead and draw another card. So that's quite reasonable. Katara could kind of pop off if you get enough allies with good abilities, but for now our only allies with abilities trigger off of attacks. The Teo and the Master Piandao. I think we got to take Lost Days over Katara. Much more consistent card. Yep, looks to be the best here. Pack 2, pick 2. There's a Forecasting Fortune Teller for a clue provider. The bitter work can draw you a lot of the cards over the course of a long game. If things take time, June can sack your most mediocre creatures to draw more cards. Boomerang Basics can redo one of your enter the battlefield effects and draw you a card. The one risk with Boomerang Basics is there is a card that's very good on Omniscience, the Hama, the Bloodbender, that if your opponent casts a Hama and they mill a Boomerang Basics in Omniscience, they go infinite and mill your whole deck because that is a 3/3 that mills you 3. Then it can cast a card from your grave by waterbending, so they can waterbend tapping the Hama they just played to pay for the 1 mana for Boomerang Basics to put Hama back in their hand. And then they play it again, mill you 3 again, play your Boomerang Basics again, pick up their Hama again. Do that over and over till your deck is gone. So there is a risk to the Boomerang Basics. It will make it so any Hama player has a way to insta-kill you, but it is really good outside of that. Like an airbending lesson, you don't have to pay the extra mana to recast your card. I'm going to take the Boomerang Basics anyway. We'll take the Hama risk. Speaking of the Hama risk, we'll take the Hama and then have a chance of Hamaing our opponents out if they are running a Boomerang Basics. Plus, this is just a solid card in the format in general. Milling 3, trying to find your opponent's waterbending lessons to cast against them is pretty good. Great in a deck that has Boomerang Basics to cast on our Hama, an airbending lesson to cast on our Hama. Very happy to see that. Pick number 4. We have the Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper, potentially giving us more creatures every single turn. When there's no card draw in the pack, I suppose that's reasonable. But we could also just take the big creature that comes with 2 permanents for waterbending. Canyon Crawler has played consistently fine as one of the filler top-end creatures when you don't find card draw in the pack. So the Spirit Keeper or the Canyon Crawler both look pretty reasonable to me. I might just go for just the bigger stats here and take the Canyon Crawler. The 2 permanents off 1 spell is good as well. Gives us an artifact to sack to Buzzard Wasp Colony. A lot of good synergy there. Here's another airbending lesson that looks great, but True Ancestry is good too. Pick number 6. Master Paku is a fun win condition in Omniscience. Everyone is drawing a lot of cards each turn, so they could naturally mill themselves quite a bit, and then with a waterbender to tap your Master Paku every turn, you can try to mill them, 5 to 10 cards every turn in the late game after casting a bunch of lesson stuff. So this can mill your opponent out really quick. I'm going to take Master Paku here as a fun kind of mill finisher, because again, a pack with no immediate card draw, just like Beetle-Headed Merchant's slow card draw in that pack. True Ancestry here, up that lesson count. We want it really high for Master Paku and Accumulate Wisdom. Pick number 8. We do see a blue shrine here, which plays perfectly fine. Draw 1 when you play it, and then now we could take other shrines over random filler finishers in packs that don't have card draw, because then the other shrines might also be card draw. Pick number 9. Super bad pack. Earth Kingdom Soldier for the biggest raw stats, because the Cavalry, you don't have the mana to exhaust it without playing some lands. You have 5 emblem mana and 2 from Firebending. That's 7 out of the 8 that you need. Cruel Administrator is cute, but the boards are almost always cluttered enough. It's not like you're going to get multiple attacks out of this to get any creatures out of it. It just attacks like the 1 time and trades off 9 times out of 10. I'd rather have just more stats up front with Earth Kingdom Soldier. Pick 10. This is another waterbending ability to go with our Gran as well as an unblockable finisher. I don't mind it, but Bitter Work for games that go long can draw a card every single turn on the right board. I think I'm going to Bitter Work here. I like the Koi a lot, but I do think I'm going to Bitter Work. Pick 11. Aang's Journey, we can kick it to pick up the Spirit Oasis. We can also run at least one basic for it as well. And then we have the basic for the Earthbend as well. I'll take an Aang's Journey here when we've got the most important shrine for Omniscience at least. Vine is another random waterbender to tap Gran, and another 4-power creature. Azula Always Lies is a lesson at the very least, so we'll take that. And so we got for pack 3. All right, we have a few ways to try to draw a card. We can get a clue token off of Lost Days. We can play 2 allies in 1 turn for South Pole Voyager. Or we can try to hit our opponent with our allies with invasion tactics. Again, a lot of cluttered boards. This one's probably one of the less consistent pieces of card draw. Bitterwork triggers every time you attack, whether or not your creature deals damage. So that feels a little more consistent. Yeah, Lost Days, Voyager, Master Pion Dao. Zuko's not great because, again, when you're casting the spells from exile, you have to actually spend the mana to play them. I guess Zuko's exile is kind of cute. You could exile your own card to get a clue with this. And it's another lesson to add to that lesson count. What is our lesson count right now? We're at 9 currently. I'm a little tempted to take like Lost Days here and buff the lesson count again, but South Pole Voyager's got to be good. How many other allies do we have? We have 6 other allies. Not a crazy amount, but still enough to probably get some triggers. I'm going to take South Pole Voyager. Lowen Lee's fantastic. Lowen Lee can tutor for your waterbending lesson at the absolute worst. And sometimes you get even crazier lessons. Not often. Waterbending lesson is one of the best. But yeah, we'll take Lowen Lee. Another Accumulate Wisdom's beautiful. Take that here. What does this Zuko do? Whenever you cast a spell from exile or when a permanent enters from exile, put a +1/+1 on each creature you control. Okay, I'm not doing that too often. Not the most exciting. Solstice Revelations is a draw 1 no matter what. Exile a bunch of cards. And then put the first spell you see into your hand. Then you can do it again off a flashback. You need 7 mana to flashback, so it's not really going to happen, but it's still just put a lesson into your graveyard and draw your next card, which is perfectly fine when you care about lessons. We'll do that. Ozai's Cruelty is good in the opening hand, or it's good on turn 1 if you draw into it. Not great later in the game, but quite good to start things off, so I'll take the Cruelty. It's another lesson as well. Here's another Cruelty. Appa's fun turn over turn. Airbend one of your permanents each turn to keep recasting it and getting more value. If Appa sticks around in a longer game, just gonna go for more upfront value with Cruelty and more lessons to try to mill with Paku because I'm a Paku nerd. We'll take Hama the Bloodbender for a second copy of that. Ember Island production is awesome with our Hamas. Zuko's Exile, we did decide is actually kind of flexible. Pop in your own card with that. Pick 10, Dragonfly Swarm can be a finisher with all our instants and sorceries and stuff, and it draws a card when it dies. So that's solid. Another waterbending card with 4 power to trigger Bitterwork over a Price of Freedom. Random nonsense. Random nonsense. That is the draft. We can cut 1 card out of our deck if we run 0 lands. We didn't pick up any other shrines to go with the Spirit Oasis. So I almost feel like maybe we cut the Aang's Journey. It feels a little bit difficult to justify cutting Aang's Journey over cutting like Pillar Launch here though. Yeah, I mean Aang's Journey is essentially just a clue token now. We have to pay the kicker, so we'll have to spend 2 emblem mana, but then it draws us the Spirit Oasis. If we draw the Spirit Oasis before we draw Aang's Journey, though, it does literally nothing. Maybe I do drop Pillar Launch. Or sorry, maybe I do drop Aang's Journey and keep Pillar Launch then. Yeah, the last few playables are gonna be awkward. We have the Solstice Revelations as well, so if we get 2 extra ways to get mana, then we can flash this back to draw 1 more card. This could play 1 or 2 lands over super filler stuff like the Aang's Journey. It's still gonna be very um, uncommon to actually flash that back. Yeah, nope. I'm just gonna go 0 lands on this one. We've got like 1 earthbending card. Very little that cares about actually having a land on board. We don't have any Sokka's Haikus. We don't have any waterbending scrolls in this pod. All right. A reasonable little Omniscience deck here. Looks like a pretty average one this time around, which is fair enough. Our last one was completely broken. Just like absolutely launched us into Mythic with like 5 waterbending lessons. And also the rare that drew like 7 cards. That was insane. So this should bring us back to Earth, show us a little more of that regular Omniscience variance, probably somewhere around a 3/3. But we'll see how it does here as we hop in the gameplay and see how far this one can take us. Here we are, unfortunately, on the draw for game 1. This would be a pretty good opener because we do have the cruelty in it if we were on the play. On the draw here, it's just play a couple flyers past, pretty much. I think I'm still going to keep it, and we just hope they don't have an explosive hand here. Earth Village Ruffians. My Jaded Edge. And that's it. Looks like we're vibing here. We are back down in the bronze queues, so hopefully that'll help us out a little bit. Maybe some slightly less experienced Omniscience players, because our deck is not great. That was the other thing about yesterday's deck, is that, or not yesterday's, but last time's deck, is that while it was really explosive, really crazy, a lot of turn 1 kills, we also ran against some really, really crazy decks. It felt like almost every deck that we played with, or, well, obviously the deck we played with was insane, but also every deck that we played against felt capable of like a turn 1 kill, which was really different from my experience in Avatar Omniscience so far. Within the midweek Magic and within my first Avatar Omniscience draft run, it felt like a lot more of just like some dirtly hands like this were capable of showing up in the format. Because of the lack of like really good card draw spells, and then like a whole mechanic of earthbending that gets kind of blanked. Teo finds an airbending lesson. I'll keep that over Zuko's Exile. And play the Lizard to draw a card off of the Bitter Work every turn. Barrels of Blasting Jelly. We can blast our Teo. But not our Lizard. I'll go ahead and airbend the Teo and draw a card here. Draw our Bitterwork card. Finds Master Paku. We don't have a way to waterbend him yet, but we got quite the board here. We should be able to end this game with just 1 more swing. And there we go. That is going to be 1-0. Nobody cast any card draw more than just like a draw 1 that game. 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are for game 2. Another pretty mid opener, but it's a pretty mid deck, so I might keep it. Double lesson for Paku. Draws 1. I mean, this has got to be below mid, right? I get to mulligan this 1 card out of the hand as the opener, but the Azula and the Paku are just really bad turn 1. I think we mulligan that. This is not much better. Just take the card draw here. See if we can find any of our good stuff like Hama. Uh-oh. Turn 1 Katara, Lo and Lee. This could be a turn 1 kill from our opponent. Maybe not literally, maybe they don't get a haster to go with Katara. If they do get a haster to go with Katara, they could get up to enough permanents to just literally one-shot me. They find Fire Lord Azula, so any instants they have get doubled up. Okay, they didn't find a waterbending lesson, so that's actually not the worst case scenario, but it is still obviously very bad. I am gonna die if we don't kind of combo off here in one turn. And that does not do anything to help that. Just get the clue token first, so I could airbend my own card if we find an ETB. Okay, that's another clue. Slow down the Katara as the most damage output they have on their board. Just find an otter penguin. Alright, well none of these enter effects are good enough to want to airbend. Let's just airbend their Azula. Give it summoning sickness. Beautiful, there we go. There's the draw 3. Then the cruelty, their last card, sure. Which is destined confrontation. Cool. Big old dragonfly swarm for the win condition. Plop out the board. They're playing off the top 2 turns from Katara. Buff our vigilant threat and our flyer. And pass on through. We'll see what the one card between the top and Katara was. It is an iguana parrot. And there's Firelord Azula. So they're not going to have an instant for Firelord Azula. Because they're just drawing Katara next turn. We might actually be favored right now. This is pretty sick. Foggy Swamp of Airbender. That is not pretty sick. It's just okay. And I guess I run it out. More permanents for waterbending and send in the team. Take the trade into Azula and get the lifelinker off the board. I think any trade we can get is profitable pre-Katara, because the less permanents they have, the less powerful Katara is going to be. Because it's less creatures to be buffing and less creatures to help buff. Like less creatures to tap as well as less creatures getting that extra power toughness. To be blocked by 3 power creatures, it can. So all they can do to Vinebender is trump with Katara. They can't block with anybody else. Which is pretty solid. Katara can already do like 7/7 or 8/8 stats. Yeah, Katara's just so strong. No buff though. They could have at least done the 5 damage, right? I don't think they used their emblem mana yet. Big reach creature. Nice draw. You love to see it. Once again, I will trade into anything here to lower their creature count. So an Earth Kingdom Soldier trading down into a 2/2 is fine. If that 2/2 is their iguana parrot or something. Activate the Vine Bender. They're down to 1. There's the Moose Line. See what they get off the top. Day of Black Sun, x equals 0. Doesn't actually blow anybody up. Yeah, Day of Black Sun, unfortunately, doesn't really work in this mode, because if you choose to pay it, if you choose to cast it without paying its mana cost, then x equals 0. And if you try to cast it while paying its mana cost, you need double black. You only get 1 black off the emblem. So if you do want to run Day of Black Sun, you have to run multiple swamps, which might not be the end of the world, considering there are some decks, again, with earthbending cards that may want random swamps in there, or just random lands in there, like 3 or 4 of them. And then those lands double as a way to cast your Day of Black Sun. Particularly if you have like Sokka's Haikus. Again, I feel like Sokka's Haiku is like the best reason to want to run a few lands. That card is really good. There's so few counterspells in this Omniscience format. Quench does not work consistently at all. So Sokka's Haiku is the only like consistent counterspell, and it's a counterspell that somebody has to have a land on board to cast. On the play with turn 1 Cruelty, we keep those. There does have to be an online permanent to cast the lesson, so I have to start with Paku. I gotta airbend my boy to draw the card, which finds Bitter Work. Decent. Not great on the current board, but obviously I draw any of my random big creatures and that'll get us going. Uh-oh. So they probably kept South Pole Voyager as their card in hand. Yep, and then they top decked the ally. Good draw. Good draw for our opponent there. Doesn't chain into anything else. There's our Voyager, so we hold on to that and pass. Because we want to play 2 allies in 1 turn whenever we play the Voyager, obviously. There's Deserter's Disciple. Just the 1 ally here. Waterbender could hit us for 5 if they use the emblem mana or if they tap the board. That is not an ally, which means I can run it out freely. Unblockable Waterbender. Alright, they remembered their emblem mana this time around, so they're going to start hitting for 5 unblockable damage a turn. Disciple Waterbender combo could just get us. It's a possibility. We found our ally, so we get to draw a card here. The life gain could also be pretty important. We find Low and Lee to get Waterbending Lesson. Gets us to 3 lessons in Grave. I need 1 more to make the Dragonfly Swarm big enough to draw off a Bitter Work. And there they are. Let's decline and just ditch a Pillar Launch here. That card seems poop. Cruelty, their hand away. Just absolutely evil. And the Cruelty's got lifelink from Lowenly, so we also gain a couple. No, airbending less on my Swarm. No attack with that this turn. So now I need to cast a True Ancestry without picking anything up from Grave if I want to trigger Bitter Work this turn. I do want to trigger Bitter Work this turn pretty badly, so let's just get our Prowess. Mill them 5. Milled their Avatar egg. God dang. Okay. They're playing off the top. We got a big old board here now. There's a Vindictive Warden for them. Unblockable Waterbender swings are sweet. We take another 5. I think we're definitely favored, but they do have some stuff going on here. This 5 damage a turn is scary. Oh, here's Hama. We already milled them a good chunk. This could pop off. Let's see. They've got Airbending Lesson is their best card for us. Yeah, I guess. Airbending Lesson the Hama off of tap. Tap, tap. Recast of the Hama. Solstice Revelation or Airbending Lesson. Airbending Lesson, tap, tap, tap. That's not technically in their hand, but I need another permanent for the Waterbend, ideally, to not have to tap somebody important. There we go. Grand's a good one to tap for the Waterbend. I will not have the mana to replay Hama again, but I can still draw one more and set up Hama to play next turn if we're not dead yet. Take the ally. GG from opponent. We don't have infinite mana, so they're not quite dead this turn. We can't keep playing Hama here. We have to stop now. But we can set up enough life gain and blockers to not die on the crackback, and then probably finish off the mill next turn. We mill 6, they're down to 11 cards. And then, of course, we have the Hama nonsense. Oh, I should have kept my most mediocre. I should have kept an Otter Penguin in hand. I forgot we were getting a Teo trigger this turn. Oh, I guess I could sequence it to where we draw from Bitterwork and then draw from Teo, which Arena automatically did. Thank you, Arena. Very cool. Okay. There's Aang's Journey. Finds an island and a southern air temple. Land for turn. And we survive with a few blocks here. To win on the crackback. It's a lot of triggers. Okay, that is 3-0 now. With our pretty mid deck, our opponents have just had slightly worse decks. We haven't seen a single copy of Waterbending Lesson so far. We have managed to draw a lot of the good card draw. And so we've had some slower, kind of grindier wins here, especially compared to our last deck. But we are still getting there so far, 3-0 heading into game 4. All right, here we are on the draw for game number 4. We'll keep this hand. We just go Voyager into Paku to draw 1 at least, and then we also have 1 piece of beef to do some blocking with our Saber-Tooth Moose Lion. Our opponent's got the Airbending Lesson draw with their Canyon Crawler. Replay it, get a second food. Buzzard Wasp Colony to sack a food and draw a card. Serpent of the Pass. And eat the food. They eat the soup. Not the worst turn in the world for us. So here's Voyager into Paku. Draw a card. Find Solstice Revelations, cast it, draw a card. Finds Hama. Hama, the Airbending Lesson at worst, is going to be decent here. Airbending Lesson it is then. Let's play the Moose Lion. I guess I'm tapping everybody except the Moose Lion, though, for this Airbending Lesson. Mill them 1 more for more Hama cards. It's just the Peddlers. Cast the Hama. Still just Airbending Lesson, which we'll play another permanent to waterbend with. Although I'll sack this Otter Penguin here. Play the Dragonfly Swarm. Airbend the Hama. Find Lost Days. I could mill any of these by Lost Days and then Hamaing, but I'd rather look farther for potential Boomerang basics. Airbending Lesson again. I could Cruelty their last card, but Airbending Lesson's legit. Hit the Death Toucher with Lost Days. Airbend that with this and that. And then we pass. But they know what we're doing here. So they know they are on a major clock here with us just spamming Hama turn over turn. GG from opponent. Alright, they're over it. Hama is insane in Omniscience. You don't even need the Boomerang basics if your opponent has the Airbending Lessons, which is a lot more common. You can still grind out a lot of value and a lot of mill. That is 4-0 heading into game 5. I mean, this is a definite keep. I would really love to somehow get 3 lessons in my grave before I accumulate wisdom, but I think I'm supposed to accumulate wisdom first because we're a double Hama deck, so the chance of drawing a Hama to Boomerang basics to get another Hama trigger is pretty major. Like, Boomerang basicsing just an Otter Penguin for exactly 1 more chance to draw a lesson. If the exact top card of my deck is a lesson, then we can go Boomerang basics, draw that lesson, play that lesson. That's still only 2 out of 3. So I think I'm supposed to just try to find a Hama if we're lucky. I mean, finding Solstice Revelations can try to find a Hama. Probably safer to just take the 7/7, but that's too bad. Azula always lies. Ugh. Okay, well. Sand is kind of falling apart here. Okay. We have a Teo and a Penguin. Please don't waterbending lesson, opponent. Yeah, that's about right. I think that's the first waterbending lesson we've had an opponent cast against us. We've been very lucky to dodge it so far. But again, our deck is very low on big card draw like waterbending lessons, so if we do run up against those kind of waterbending lesson openers, we could crumble fast. Double waterbending lesson. Azula on the hunt. Cruel Administrator. Buzzard Wasp Colony. Sack a creature, draw a card. Or sack the Administrator. They sack nothing. Meteor Sword. Blow up Teo. And pass with a bunch of cards in hand. Only main phase 2 with a bunch of cards in hand. It's obviously looking really bad for us, but we have a couple outs. If we draw a waterbending lesson, if we draw one of our 2 Hamas, those are the biggest cards that could immediately get us back into the game. There's a Hama. And you can't counter this. There's no land on board for Sokka's Haiku. They could have Quench. So that if I try to like do airbending lesson loops with Hama, it won't work. Okay. If I Ember Island production the Hama, get another trigger, but I have to spend some mana on it, which is not great. I think I still do that. Well, that was awkward. Because I can't quite afford the waterbending lesson. Jesus, their deck. Triple waterbending lesson in Ember Island production. Well, took a gamble and it has not paid out. Should have just drawn 3, I guess. And just pass through. I mean, we can still play the waterbending lesson next turn. Because we could still play the card next turn, maybe we're still supposed to just take another Ember Island production and just keep doing that. But I don't think we're going to have a lot of time to do that. Sure. Just draft like 5 how to start a riot for some reason. Sure. That's lethal. Because the flyers. Alright. Weird deck, but okay. The waterbending lessons will hard carry there, and we are super dead. 4-1 heading into game number 6. This is literally the exact same hand. What are the odds? 3 out of our... the exact same 3 out of 40? We have one copy of these two and 2 Otter Penguins? That's really weird. I'm still gonna keep it. But we've had this exact same opening hand in a previous game, which is wild. Okay. I think once again I need to try to accumulate into a Hama style card. No Hama. Bunch of different ways to draw one. I'll just do Spirit Oasis and not sack a penguin. Because Spirit Oasis can be picked up by Boomerang Basics to draw another without sacking more cards, which looks like what we're going to have to do here. Find Gran if we find Waterbending. And there's the Waterbending. Gran Waterbender tail. Draw and discard. Could start using Emblem Mana. But I only get the one draw anyway, so I guess that doesn't make sense. Discard Penguin. Drop Corrupt Court Official, hit one of their cards in hand, and then play the Beetle-Headed Merchants to sack that official next turn. Got rid of an Abandoned Attachments. Okay, so their last card in hand is very good then. They didn't want to just discard it to draw two and try to loop stuff. Bitter Work. Could have been the card. So it draws cards turn over turn. Appa. Can airbend one of their cards. You're just gonna untap a Geyser Leaper. Waterbending lesson. That has to have been the top deck, otherwise it wouldn't make sense that they didn't just cast it last turn. It's probably the draw off of the Bitter Work, and then the Abandoned Attachments and Bitter Work, they were just holding the Bitter Work rather than running it out, so that we couldn't blow it up before they got their attack with Geyser Leaper, I guess. Mongoose Lizard. Kills our Court Official. That's actually pretty rough, because now we don't have a super expendable card for Beetle-Headed Merchants. There's Lost Days for us. Hit the Geyser Leaper. Hit something that doesn't have a good enter effect, at least. Get our clue. Oh, shoot. I need to crack the clue in response to this. Oh! No, dude. What is the point of full control if the ability's not even resolved yet and it won't let me? Oh. You gotta be kidding me. I can't get my mana. I can't crack my clue. That's tilting beyond belief. Yeah, because the right way to do that is to tap the clue so that I have to waterbend with less permanence, but then sack the clue before that resolves. Oh my god. Lose and accumulate wisdom. Never concede. That's so bad, though. That's really tilting. Need a counter on merchants here pretty badly. I ditch cruelty, they just have the one card in hand. It's an origin of metal bending. Well, I couldn't have cruelty till main phase 2 anyway. Hama them. I've used all my emblem mana already. So I can't play any of these this turn, but if they don't have removal, I can play it next turn. I think we exile Waterbending Lesson, then they can't Professor Zay the Waterbending Lesson here. Feels pretty huge. Yeah, none of these give us multiple permanents. Off of the one spell. I get the Beetle-headed card again, so that I have a 5-power creature for Bitterwork. Oh wait, we can play Waterbending Lesson because Grand's active. Ooh, let's go. Tapping all my blockers, so I'll need to draw a blocker off of this, but that's kind of crazy. Those are not blockers. They are good cards, though. Can't replay the Hama this turn, but I can draw my one card and see if I hit a blocker. A blocker and a Miller. I guess I did just put their Waterbending Lesson back in grave, so I need to exile Professor Zay. Yeah. I missed a full-on draw 3 with that Accumulated Wisdom. We probably could have gotten a majorly commanding lead that turn to the point of, like, auto-winning if I had cracked that clue first. Still found some good work, though, at least. That was so disappointing, though. As soon as I did it, I'm like, okay, so we need to tap everything for the water bending and then crack the clue once it's tapped, but I clicked one too many times, or I had to full control before I did the tap. That was rough. Go to 6. Ember Island production. It's 4 mana. Okay. Do they have no boomerang basics? Nobody's running to boomerangs. God dang it. One, two, three, four, five. Could tap all five. They have 12 cards left. It's so risky. I can Ember Island production tapping the whole board. And I get one more trigger with 2 floating mana. I think I have to Waterbending Lesson this time. No boomerang basics. I've used all my emblem mana now. I think we need to airbend their Appa at this point. I need to not die, yeah. Wait, stop trying to go for the 1-turn kill and just get the turtle up here. Play it safe. Safe as we can. Kind of still want to send in merchants, that's a draw 2. Ooh, the untap trick is actually so good on the defense here. Wait, the untap trick kills them, it mills them. I untap Paku and then mill them out. Oh my god. The dream. That was an embarrassing game. But we got there in the end. The, just max punishment for misclicking things with the Grand Waterbend. In that position, we're definitely supposed to tap that clue. Tap the clue in the Grand and the other thing first, and then sack the clue before Grand's ability resolves, but I think I just clicked too fast and accidentally resolved Grand first before trying to do the clue crack. Man. It's a victory in the end. Don't dwell on it too much. We got major mill nonsense going on, and that is going to be 5-1 now, heading into game number 7. All right, here we are for game number 7. We're 5-1 right now, and this is not a good keep. We're gonna mulligan that. This is also pretty bad, but keep this one. Just draw my 1 card. At least this can draw a card without cracking a clue, without using any emblem mana, if that ends up relevant, like if we draw a Hama or something. Okay, Dragonfly Swarm is nice, as it will draw us a card when it dies, because we're going to have the Boomerang basics in grave. I'm basicsing the lion so that if they have removal to throw it at the lion, they aren't removing our swarm before our swarm draws us a card. And that is exactly what happens, so very happy with that play. I'm going to wait till we have 1 more lesson in grave, ideally, so this trades in something. I guess I need 2 more now that they have a clue. I think I'm supposed to wait with the Dragonfly Swarm. I just need any 2 non-creature spells to get it up to 3 power for the peddlers. Oh, there's their own Moose Lion. That's quite bad. And that's the best draw on the deck. You'll love to see it. Waterbending lesson easily, right? Sure is. Lifelinking waterbending lesson. I'm gonna need my blockers up here, so I'll use that emblem mana. Nothing to True Ancestry back yet, sadly. Sack an artifact or creature. Okay, I can True Ancestry back the Swarm after drawing 2 off of it with Wasp Colony. It's not attacking through a 7/7 reach anyway, so we just sack it now. Draw 2. Find Gran. Cool. True Ancestry. And then crack the clue, see if we find any waterbending. Nope. But a bunch of decent, big chunkers. Buff the flyers for if we get through the Moose Lion. Plan to just trade the Death Toucher into the Moose Lion for now if we can. The Wasp Colony like moves counters around too, right? Oh, whenever another creature dies with counters. Maybe I should have put all the counters on not the Wasp Colony then. So like 1 on Dragonfly Swarm, 1 on maybe Mongoose Lizard instead. Ooh, Geyser Leaper's a fantastic draw here. You can draw a card, discard a card at least once every turn, just from Emblem Mana alone, but you can also Waterbend with it. Meteor Sword the Canyon Crawler. Slap the sword onto Fortune Teller. I guess they're playing full defense for now then. Yep. Pass to our turn, we find Corrupt Court Official. Pretty bad draw. So we don't do anything here. Could chump attack with Gran. But we have waterbending cards in the deck, we should just wait. You can't use Geyser Leaper without any cards in hand, at least. They need something to discard. Draw for a turn, and then Geyser Leaper draw discard. Discarding a second Geyser Leaper. To play Sandbender Storm on Mongoose Lizard. Fair enough. And they pass through. We find a Lost Days. That is huge. Boop the Moose Lion. And we get to start poking. Dragonfly Swarm dying would be trade plus draw a card. So I think we send both in here. And they both hit. They're down to 11. Not gonna sack the food just yet. It could be relevant to any water bending that we might draw later. Top deck is Invasion Tactics, which will draw them a card off of Geyser Leaper here. Good draw. And that then gets to the Moose Lion immediately. Find Teo. Draw a card, discard a card on Dragonfly Swarm attack triggers. Okay. Corrupt Court Official seems really unlikely to end up mattering, so let's run it out to sack it to Merchants. And then Teo discarding a non-land card. I have to hit a lesson to make Dragonfly Swarm big enough here to not just die to Moose Lion. But if it just dies to Moose Lion, we also just draw another card, which is good. Yes, we need Merchants to resolve first to have the extra card for the draw and discard. No lesson! No! That's a big bummer. Find a waterbender for Grand at least. Draw our Dragonfly Swarm card. Which is an otter penguin. So, which is a piece of poop. Draw a card, discard a card with Grand. I probably should have tapped one more permanent so that I'd have the 2 mana up for a clue or an airbend. Yeah, because now I don't have the mana. Could still airbend their Geyser Leaper to slow down their attacks, rather than recasting my own Lowenly. Oh, Jesus. Guess we can just do both. Why not do everything? Why not cast the entire deck while we're at it, I guess? Sounds fun. Yep. Wow, their spells are not great. Huh. I mean, I still draw my 1. It's an ally for Voyager. There's a Mongoose Lizard. Am I missing any card draw here? Nope, I believe that is everything. Zuko's exile our biggest creature. Well, we get a clue. Play a Geyser Leaper. suited up. Crack this clue. Find another vine bender. Find a bitter work. They're at 10 here. They're almost definitely dead. Pretty lazy with the math. Sunder's gonna do things. Buff a Gran. And then attack all. I actually don't want to give them a clue here. Because we know they're dead if they don't draw something. So don't even give them the chance. It's better to just not Zuko's Exile and deal slightly less when that slightly less is still lethal. And that is 6 and 1, I believe. Their top card was Waterbending Lesson. That's rough. That would have been an excellent draw. And then Airbending Lesson wouldn't have been bad either. Dang, had some bangers coming up. Alright, this deck has done much better than I thought it would, but we have, for the most part, dodged multi-waterbending lessons. I think our one loss has been to like the triple waterbending lesson deck, the bare minimum. But a lot of the other matches, we've really been dodging that great card draw and just getting into some grindier games where we get ahead over time. That is 6 and 1 now, heading into the final boss with 2 rounds in the chamber. Alright, here we are on the play for what could be the final game of Magic. We got Accumulate Wisdom to try to dig to something. We got Hama to try to mill something good from them. We'll see what happens here. I think we lead with Hama, because we could Hama like their waterbending lesson and then draw enough to play enough other lessons to get Accumulate to be a draw 3. Oof. Well, that was poop. Our Accumulate's not too much better. We can Airbending Lesson the Hama to try again. So we'll do that. Oh, we did it! No, we're a criminal! Yeah, there's the concession from our opponent. They know the combo. Oh my god. I wanted to do it at least once today. We did it. What a fitting way to end. We got the Boomerang Basics Hama combo on the play as well, which means there's nothing they can have to stop it. The counter spells in the set, maybe there's one on the bonus sheet, but Sokka's Haiku, somebody has to have a land on board for you to cast that, and Quench is counter unless you pay 2. We're going to have 3 mana up for the rest of this game. Hama lets us waterbend the Boomerang Basics, so tap Hama, cast Basics, put Hama into hand, play Hama for free, cast Basics again. Again, Hama does not put the card into exile after you cast it. Once you cast a non-land card, you put it right back into their grave. You can pick it up with Hama again and just mill them entirely out. Alright, cool. We did the Hama Boomerang Basics thing. We got revenge for our one loss in our just incredible deck run yesterday. Or last time we did Omniscience, I guess day before yesterday now. Crazy run here. Was not expecting this thing to get a 7 winner after how absurd our last deck was and how strong the decks that we played against were. I think I may have gotten a little bit of a skewed view of the Avatar Omniscience format. The first couple times we played it, again during Midweek Magic and during my very first Omniscience Draft 1 run, it did feel a lot more like this, where there are plenty of longer games of Magic. Yes, people are going to get some surge card draw like Waterbending Lesson and have like one really big turn now and then, but a lot less like turn one kill kind of nonsense. But yeah, that middle draft we did when we hit Mythic and Omniscience, that was almost exclusively one turn chain kills. So nice to go back to a slightly more normal draft here. I do think that my expectations were a little too high because of my experience with the last deck that we hit Mythic with, where we got like 5 waterbending lessons. I think that deck was a pretty extreme anomaly. A lot of the decks we played against there were a pretty extreme anomaly. Double Hama, waterbending lesson, double accumulate wisdom. That's still really, really good by this format standards. All 5 of these cards could be one of those big draw 3 style get way ahead and win the game style cards. We even have the low and lead to tutor these out. The water bending lesson early or the accumulate wisdoms late once there's 3 lessons engrave. So yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of exceptional card draw in the deck. The Ember Island production to copy a Hama or a Lowenly turns into like the 7th piece of exceptional card draw, and then plenty of other decent stuff. The Boomerang Basics could also work with them, and lots of other fun little synergies and stuff. Bunch of beef, and then some waterbenders running vine benders and flexible waterbenders and stuff to get Master Paku as a potential mill victory, which we did win 1 game with Master Paku mill, so that was fun. And then the waterbenders also go with a Grand to turn Grand into some card draw. The rest is really filler. We're just doing what we can to turn mediocre cards into reasonable card draw, like Bitter Work and Dragonfly Swarm dies to draw a card. Teo draws and discards whenever he attacks. Piandao could draw a card every time he attacks. A lot of little stuff like that, but really all came together quite well. We were lucky enough to just draw these really premium cards that we've put way on the right here very frequently, and got some crazy chains off of them, and even the infinite mill win condition that final game with Hama. Gross stuff. 7-1, yet another trophy run to end off these Avatar The Last Airbender Omniscience drafts. But starting tomorrow, we are in full flashback draft season. If you're excited to see some other draft formats after a bunch of Avatar and Final Fantasy, we're going to be swapping draft formats every single week. We have Innistrad Midnight Hunt, followed by other stuff. We'll figure out as we get there. But Innistrad Midnight Hunt all throughout next week. Cube drafts will be coming back a few weeks from now, so we'll be doing some Cube. And then, of course, after a few weeks of flashbacks, we have the launch of Lorwyn Eclipsed, the return to Lorwyn. Finally, after many years. That's going to be very exciting. We are close to the new set coming out, so lots of great stuff coming in the near future. But as for now, that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. And other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.